The Giants lost another primetime game Monday night to Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, I know everyone's tired about talking about losses, so let's talk about the storylines coming out of the 26-18 loss with our New York Post beat writer Paul Schwartz, who's marked safe and home from Pittsburgh. Man, Paul, you didn't miss much in New York City in terms of sports. 4 L's across 4 major sports teams. I guess. Take us through what you saw out in Pittsburgh, man, in the loss.
Saw a lot of terrible towels, saw a good atmosphere, a good crowd, and, really more of the same, Brandon, right? I mean, there's not, they're being creative in how they lose some of these games, but remarkably consistent in just, it's not 34-31. The Giants offense had like 390 total yards, right? You finally saw Daniel Jones connect down the field on explosive plays to Darius Slayton, not once, but twice. The dust settles, you add up everything, and it's 18 points. It's 18 points. 18 points, will win, 3 or 4 games in a season? Maybe you hold a team to 17 or 15 or 10 or something like that. It's just not enough points. It's very frustrating. You see signs of frustration all around this team. We'll talk about it. Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence, a lot of frustration because they're not getting blown out. They're not getting blown off the ball in a lot of cases, but they just can't win. And defense wasn't great, but the offense was worse. That's basically the way it's been just about all season. Yeah,
you talk about frustration seems to be, I guess, the theme, not only amongst the fan base, but to the Giants, the longest tenured Giants, a Daniel Jones, a Dexter Lawrence, who is playing lights out. And if this team was in a position to make a run and make some noise, we'd be talking about him being Defensive Player of the Year or at least being one of the candidates for it. But the frustration with Daniel Jones after that 2-point conversion which was, I don't even know what was going on there. That video and seeing DJ rip off the chin strap, that video has gone viral and everyone's talking about it. I think Mike Garafolo was the one who tweeted the video and a lot of comments underneath it. What was Daniel like after the game? What was Brian Daboll like after the game in terms of talking about their offensive performance?
They were, Daniel was definitely heated. Brian Daboll was maybe less heated. Look, on the 2-point conversion, that was kind of a new trick play the Giants had worked on. Brian Daboll said the day after the game, just on, this Tuesday, he said, we worked on that maybe more than any other play. Okay, so we had it worked on. It's supposed to be a quick hitter, right? Daniel Jones is lining up to get the snap, and to his left, there's Malik Neighbors, and there's a wall in front of them, right? Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to look, and if they get a certain look, they had the look outnumbered. They had, 3 or 4 guys on a wall, and the Steelers only had 2 guys over there. So they're supposed to get it, set, snap it, and bang, get it to Malik right away, and they're going to basically, the wall, almost like soccer, right? The wall is going to move forward, and Malik is going to hide behind him, and they're going to power their way into the end zone with a bit of an element of surprise. Bang, it's going to happen fast. So Daniel sees it. He's, Daniel's no dummy down there. He knows what's going on. So he looks to his left, right? He looks like it's set, gets the snap, throws it over. Malik gets it, and literally nobody on the line moves, and I think it was Hightower just crashes in and obliterates him. Yeah. What happened was Devin Singletary, who was one of the guys on the line, that was a bit of deception there, right, is not set. And he's looking at the official, with all these illegal formations and everything like that, they're cautious of that, even though they still get penalized for it too much. So he's looking at the official and kind of making sure he's set. And as he's doing that, nobody is set, and the ball is snapped. So so Daniel basically looked to the side, and Daboll said Daniel looked to the side and, as you said, threw off his chin strap and said, let's get our butts set. He probably used an expletive in there. He was feeling it. They had finally scored a touchdown on Tyrone Tracy's long run, right? And now they're down. Look, I don't like it. I'm on record. I don't like it when you're down 8 to go for 2 there. why do you have to go for two there? But I understand it. It's like I'm throwing, darts against the wall. I get it. Analytics say you go for the two there and you try to make it a 6-point game. I say, why not make it a 7-point game? Don't go for the two until you need it. But that's not what these guys do. So that's not the controversy, because then they don't get it. So you know what? I just saw a stat in the league, in the NFL this year, Brandon. Teams are converting 30-something% of their 2-point conversions. So I think every time a coach has that chart in front of him and is saying, okay, the chart tells me to go for two, I would ask that coach, okay, but assume you don't make it, okay? Because you're more often than not, you're not going to make it, and then tell me if you still want to go for two and if you think the game is going to play out the way you want it to if you don't make it. If you make it, it's great. Most of the time, you don't make it. But that was a bad play. It was just a bad play, and it wasn't on Daniel. I mean, Daniel's supposed to get it, look. They had the look, and if you hesitate, you're lost, right? We would have criticized Daniel for waiting, looking, making set, bang, get it and throw it and go. And the Giants on the line didn't go. So it's just, is it coaching? It's either they wasn't coached well enough, or the players were just not mentally sharp enough to get it done. It's the sign of a losing operation.
And again, that's where the word frustration I'm going to use that word about 20 times in this. So if you guys don't like it, I'm sorry, because players, coaches, fan base, us, the media, we're going to be frustrated because, Paul, you got that stat. You said, 36%. If you're going to, as a coach, if you're going to do it, you're going to go for it there, knowing that, all right, we've got a 36% chance of doing this. I'm going to go with a bread and butter play that we practice over and over and over again, something that could possibly beat the analytics, beat the probability. And like he said, we practice that play more than anything else. So to players, it should be drill work. Get to the line, quickly check, get on, block man on, and get help with the wall, with other guys within the wall. Right. So for that not to happen, and for that not to work, that means there's no lock-in terms of taking advantage of championship details. Because that play right there, that's where you got to make a coach right. The analytics say one thing, but me as the coach, this is where I'm putting it on you guys, the players, because me and the staff, we've watched tape over and over and over again. And when we line up in this, they're probably going to give you this. But here's the advantage to our 6th pick of the draft. We're going to get him the ball in space with a wall. Forget 36%. All we need is 2 yards. Go get it, fellas. And for that not to happen at that point of the game, again, it's just like it's a buzzkill. It was like the sales, I'm looking at it on TV like, you have to be kidding me. And it continues to be one thing after the next for this team.
That was embarrassing.
Yes, it was. Yes.
We don't even know if the play would have worked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's pretty rare when you say, well, it didn't work. It never got off the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, it was actually comical if you weren't, pulling for the Giants. It was actually comical, right? I mean,
yeah.
What happened? It's like, you're playing the game, ready, set, go. It's like, no, oh, well, you screwed me up with my timing. I mean, so that's, Dexter Lawrence was saying, I don't see it during the week. We practice well. We're together, and we don't get it done on game day. And it's like, dude, all that matters is game day.
Yeah.
All that matters is game day. Right? How many guys did you play with who stunk in practice, who lollygagged through practice, and they're great on game day, right? I mean, all that matters is game day.
Yeah. Plaxico Burress didn't practice the Super Bowl year. Remember that ankle kept him out.
Yeah.
I remember watching this dude not practice throughout the week and then go for like 9 catches, 180 yards, and like 2 touchdowns. And you're like, this dude, not everyone can do that. But again, Paul, that's where the frustration comes from, because if you're Dexter Lawrence, it's not like you're the Carolina Panthers where you're coming into a game and you're like, we probably aren't going to win this game. Defensively, they do enough. Shane Bowen gives them enough, gets them well prepared with what he has on that defense to keep them in games. So it's almost like the frustration for the fan base is like, I would rather, it's almost like you'd rather these dudes just get blown out so you have zero hope or zero expectations. You're just like, oh, Monday Night Football, Steelers, Giants. Nah, I'll watch Game 4. Nah, I'll watch New York City FC in the playoffs, and I'll have the Giants game on the laptop. But no, they're in these games. They're playing well. Azeez Ojulari, playing lights out again, playing good football. Bobby Okereke, again, punches a ball out to get them the ball back. And it's almost like the Bengals game with Jason Pinnock, when if he would have picked up that fumble, the offense would have had to go down to score to win it. So you're in these games, and you're, as a fan, you're keeping the hope alive, and you're like, come on, guys, you could do it. Come on. All right, we're going for 2, guys. Everybody calm down. Come, we're going for 2. Man, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
and it's like, what?
It's exactly right. When they got the ball back, right? They got the ball back. We're jumping around a little bit, but that's fine. This is, when they got the ball back with 1:53 to go, right, on their own 7, no timeouts, okay, and they're down 8. They're down 8, right? If they're down 7, I feel better about it. They got to score and get a 2-point conversion. Yep. Okay, but how many times have you seen? It's a lot of time, right? It's a lot. 153 is a ton of time. You don't have timeouts. Okay, we understand you got to go down the field. But I'd like to know, because I spoke to some Giants fans, just through correspondence and things, and they, were you feeling good about that? The answer was no. No. In other games, it's like, okay, they're going to come down and they're going to challenge here. They're going to come down. 153, oh, my God, that's way too much time. Way too much time. Daniel throws an interception, sails the ball. Okay, he's in a situation down in the last, half a minute where he's got to throw the ball, things like that. Daniel had 2 turnovers in the last 3 minutes, and the strip sack. What do you think of the strip sack? Because there's an interesting story inside there.
Well, before you get into the story, I thought it was, Jermaine Illuminor kind of not called out T.J. Watt, but earlier in the week said, hey, I want that matchup. I want that smoke. And T.J. Watt, being a Watt, brought that smoke. So, it's one of those things where it's like Tay Banks earlier in the year was saying, hey, I want to be matched up with the elite. I want to see where I match up at when it comes to the elite wide receivers. The thing about the football gods, they listen, and they be like, oh, okay, say less. Oh, we're going to put you in that position. So, that was T.J. Watt making a heck of a play, a future Hall of Famer. You would want Jermaine Illuminor to kind of set a little bit more, especially with that speed coming off that edge. But it was just unfortunate that sack, strip, fumble, recovery, it all happened right there, and you had said it. Got to watch out for T.J. Watt, because at any drop of a dime, there could be one play, all he needs to take over a game, and that was it right there. But you got the D, you got the T on that play, so.
Yeah, but see what happens is, I guess Illuminor, it goes on his thing, sack allowed, so PFF or Next Gen, whatever analytics, they say you gave up a sack, but and he does give up a sack, but Daniel Jones is at the line of scrimmage, and he's looking at the coverage and figuring out the coverage. He forgets to motion Theo Johnson. Just forgets to motion him. Okay, so because Brian Daboll after the game is asked, okay, on a key play there, you leave Jermaine Illuminor alone against T.J. Watt, right? And so we're thinking that question, saying that's really dumb. That's really dumb, right? And Daboll was like, he gave it up, and he said, nobody feels worse about it than Daniel, but he forgot to alert Theo Johnson to come in motion and chip Watt. That's what he's supposed to do. Theo Johnson, you've been standing next to him on a sideline. He's 6'6", 250, 255 pounds. He's a big guy. I'm not saying he's Howard Cross going over there and leveling somebody with a block, but he's a big guy, and his chip would have an effect of some sort. Yes. He doesn't do it. They missed the shift there. Brian Daboll said Jermaine was anticipating a chip. So you said you didn't like the way he set, right?
Yeah.
Or Illuminor. Yep. You're going to set and act differently when you say, okay, I've got an extra second here because my tight end's coming over to chip, and now I got a different set here for my protection scheme. Didn't happen. Yep. It's one-on-one. It's a problem. And Daniel said, now I thought it was interesting that Brian Daboll came right out and said that, because usually he doesn't analyze. And, I think there is a little friction between him and Daniel Jones growing now. how could it not be, right? They're just not scoring enough points. He took him off the field last week, did not take him off the field this week, early in the fourth quarter. But Daniel owned it up, but he was frustrated. He was very frustrated by that. One play and it costs you, and that's, that's on Daniel. That's on Daniel. But, God forbid you miss that call and maybe your right tackle can make a block.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand it's against the best speed rusher in the league, but, so one little failing becomes a disaster.
Well, that's why I love the fact that we do this kind of 24 hours after a game, because you get the tea, you get the details. And so I apologize to Jermaine Illuminor for that, because here I am looking at the broadcast thinking, come on, bro, that's TJ Watt. You got to set. Like you said, I am going to set differently if I know I have help or I have a chip block coming to my right side and I'm anticipating that help, rather than oversetting, getting back there and getting some depth. So, again, frustration because the championship details are not even championship details, Paul, just a win. A win.
Yeah.
Winning is so hard. Coach Coughlin used to say all the time, winning in the NFL is so hard. You give yourselves the opportunity. We're giving y'all the playbook. Know you know what to do, but be ready at the biggest moment to execute the smallest detail. And that is what this team is lacking. And I'm scrolling up and down my IG timeline, and I don't know if it was clickbait or whatever, but I see this big graphic, and it's Brian Burns saying this team needs to grow up. Now, if it wasn't so much turmoil and so much going on behind the scenes that could potentially be brewing, I'm like, what? Like, what is this dude talking about? Or who is this dude talking about? They benched Tay Banks last night. 27 plays into the game, Tay Banks was benched. So automatically, with everything that's going on with this team, my mind went to, who's he talking to? Is he talking to Tay Banks? And I'm not trying to start anything or whatever when it comes to that, but you can feel the frustration coming out of the defensive room. Whether it's they want their guys in-house to buy in more to the system, because they look at it. A guy like Dexter Lawrence or Brian Burns, you've been there before. You're not going to point outward at anybody. You're going to point within the house, within the defensive line. Hey, defense, we need to come away with more turnovers to get the offense the ball back. But what I like about Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, a true leader isn't going to ask you to do anything that he or she is not willing to do themselves. And we're talking about a Brian Burns who's on that injury report, who needs a day or two to not practice to keep his body healthy enough to play in a full game. Same thing with Dexter Lawrence. So those guys, let's say he is talking about effort or lack of effort. Those guys are thinking in their heads, if I got one leg out here and I'm running to the ball, I'm showing all types of effort, I'm taking on two blocks, then you, and you, for darn sure, better be matching my intensity and effort or putting more into it. And that's what I kind of took from that. And, I mean, Shane Bowen, salute to him, Paul. Like, the defense is doing their job. This is a top 10 defense in this NFL. If they had an offense to play complementary football, I will stand on that. I will die on that hill.
Well, I mean, look, they gave up 167 rushing yards. You know what I mean? They didn't put a tremendous amount of heat on Russell Wilson, but they sacked him 4 times, and Russell Wilson is trying to get rid of the balls quick as possible. Now, as far as Burns, I don't know exactly who he was referring to, but look, this Tay Banks thing is real. You know what I mean? I did not think, we knew that he came into the game sort of with 2 strikes against him, right, Brandon?
Yep.
Lack of enough hustle and effort to get CeeDee Lamb down to the ground on a 55-yard pass play, right, against the Cowboys in Week 3. Not enough effort or hustle. Which in just the last game, he with Jalen Hurts on the right sideline, right? You know what I mean? And that's the game you see, Jerome Henderson, like going, what the hell? He's like gesticulating on the sideline, like, what are you doing, man? You just let the guy run out of bounds and gain 5 more yards on us. And Dexter Lawrence promised us, right? It's been addressed. It's been addressed. And there was a school of thought, from people in the media certainly, that said he should be benched for that. That was his second offense. He should have been benched or not started, not play the first series, something. And I really wasn't in that mode, because now you're penalizing the whole defense and the whole team.
Yeah.
He was one of your better players. I think he needs to play better, but he is your best cornerback. Now you're hurting the whole unit. You got, and I felt, look, when Dexter says it's been addressed, it's going to be addressed, right? So what happens in this game? I didn't see what was so glaring in this game. The Najee Harris vault, right? You see that every week. And Dexter was ticked when that was brought up as something, was that something that got him benched? He said, small guy, he said, which is Tay Banks, big guy, Najee Harris. Small guy goes low to take the legs out of the big guy, and the big guy jumps home. He said it's a highlight play, you see him all the time. Not a lack of effort thing. That was right on the sideline in front of the Giants, and Dable didn't look happy with that. Now, Dexter got mad at Deontay earlier on the touchdown pass to George Pickens, where he catches it, they call it a touchdown, and then Banks makes a good play to kind of not let him come down. It turns out Pickens comes down with the same leg twice. Yep. It's not a touchdown. So Dexter was ticked off at a non-touchdown that he thought was a touchdown, and he said, I just was telling those guys at the back end, we need to be more competitive. We need to be competing harder, okay? So he was upset with that. But Dable's the one who benched him. And I don't know, Dable did not say it was because of the hurdle. He just said, I'm just saying we need a little bit more. That's what he said. And we asked Tay Banks, what did the coach say when he benched you? He said, he just said I was missing tackles, I guess. I really didn't think that I was playing bad, but that's not my choice. So he's benched, right? After 27 snaps in the second quarter, he doesn't come back in the game, right? That's rough. This guy's a first-round draft pick. They can't lose him. Talking to Tay Banks after the game, Brandon, I'm not sure he gets it 100%. You know what I mean? I think he thinks he's playing hard. He's 23 years old, though. Well, I think he thinks he's playing hard. I'm sure when you were 23 as a player coming up, right? There were times you thought you were doing enough, and maybe a veteran said, you're not doing quite enough. You know what I mean? You think you're doing enough, but you're not. You know what I mean? You're not helping the team all you can. You're not doing enough. I don't think Tay Banks, I think it's, sometimes a young guy, and he starts right away. He's a first-round draft pick, right? He starts at age 22. And all of a sudden you go in a locker room, and there's grown men in there, right? And there's guys with kids, and guys with alimony, and guys with mortgages, and guys with car payments, and guys with, nice suites in Edgewater and the city, and they're paying, and they got, it's just sometimes it's different. It's more business-like with these guys, and it's like, don't mess with my money here. And I think Tay Banks is messing with a little bit of their money on the field a little bit. I think he needs to clean it up and just get a little more, even with these first two incidents, when I talked to him in the locker room, he was not like, man, I can't let this happen again. He was like, it's okay. I got this. And even after the game, he's like, I don't know. That's what he said. I guess he said I needed to tackle better, as opposed to really sitting down and saying, I'm not sure what it is, but I got to figure this out, because I can't keep on doing this. Yeah. And I can't keep on getting benched, and I can't have my head coach taking me out of the game here. So I got to figure this out. And you know what I mean? I just think that's part of maturity, because they can't lose them. They can't lose them. And I don't think they've lost them, but I don't think it's a tremendous leap of faith to say, if this happens again, this guy could be lost for the season.
Well, I mean, just Brian Dable benching him is sending a message right there to everybody within that locker room. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, we're 2-6. Are we going to the playoffs? Who knows? But if you come in and you don't show up to work as a professional, and you still don't have the mindset where you're going to outwork everybody, not only everybody in the facility, but the invisible man. the receiver one you got to go up against each week, the receiver one we need you to take away with you being our first round lockdown corner. If you're not coming into the building with that type of mentality, like you're coming in here to shut somebody down and be a part of the solution, then a guy like a Dexter Lawrence, a Brian Burns, Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden, those guys now feel like you're messing with my money now. Like, it's all fun and games. Like, the NFL locker room, people think that it's just everybody in there playing ping pong and playing cornhole and stuff. We see that when we go in, to the locker room for media availability. But when those doors close and you're in, and it is time to get up in someone's face, or it's time to have some sort of accountability in that locker room, it's grown men up in there. And it's a lot of grown men who understand what this business is. This is a high production business. If you ain't producing at a high level, they are going to call someone and send a enterprise rental car to pick them up, or a flight to come bring them in, and they're just going to go up to your nameplate, get it off, and slide in someone else's. You may go to another team. You may go to the Texans. You may go to the Packers. Is what it is. But everybody's always going to remember that when it comes to who you are, how you prepared. And then you're going to see some of these teammates again, whether it be a teammate at another place or a coach. Your secondary coach, and not saying Tate Banks, but just anybody, your secondary coach can end up being the D coordinator for another team, a head coach eventually. And, I mean, as a young guy in this league, you may play 8 to 10 years. You're going to see people again. You're going to be in the same locker room, meeting room with a lot of people again. So it's one of those things where if whoever the grow up was for, or whoever it's with, you're hoping that that message is well received if it is from a Tay Banks. Because, yes, you may think your effort is enough in terms of, as a cornerback number 2, or maybe a nickel or someone that we're not asking you to do too much. Yeah, that's the effort there. But we're talking about going up against Justin Jefferson, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, George Pickens. That's a different type of lock-in, Paul. That's a different type of grow-up and maturity level on how you prepare yourself each week. The only time we've talked special teams this year has been off of, Graham Gano being injured, Cade missing some field goals. A punt return to the house in a game like this, and special teams coach Gabriel, and Dable was just upset with themselves because up until this point, the kicks coverage has been night and day compared to what it's been in recent years. We haven't talked about the kickoff or kick return or any of these teams giving up anything, not even putting the ball on the ground. And in this game, in a crucial moment, that's what happens. So it's a thing of championship detail, Paul, and complimentary football just continues to slip the grasp of this team, and that is why they're 2-6 and not 6-2, 4-4, or whatever it is. Paul, you got what you want to close this out with, Paul?
Yeah, just you mentioned about the punt return. I mean, this team can't give up points. They can't give up. The defense is trying hard, and like I said, I don't think they play great, but they're keeping you in the game at least. They're keeping you in the game. When they win, they get 7 or 8 sacks. And they dominate it. They got a late turnover, right? McFadden knocks the ball out. Bobby Okereke picks up. They get a turnover on Russell Wilson. It's not enough. So, I think there are signs. Like I said, there are definitely signs of frustration. Definitely. And I think it's like the witching owl for Brian Dable here. You know what I mean? Because guys are frustrated. The veterans are upset. Daniel Jones is upset. How much longer can they keep on going starting him? Starting him when the team is getting 1 touchdown, a bunch of field goals. Greg Joseph went 4 for 4 in field goals. That's a good thing for the special teams. No jokes about him missing field goals and things like that. He made them all, and he kept them close. But you go to these games. I travel. I go to these games, and you go to this hostile environment. And look, the Giants beat one in Cleveland, good. The Giants won in Seattle, terrific. And they had a chance to win this game, even though they never had the lead. They had a chance to win this game, and you always think in the back of your head, you know what? Maybe they're going to put something together. Maybe they're hanging out close enough. Maybe they're going to, he threw it to Slayton deep once. Maybe he'll do it again. Maybe Malik will break free. Tyrone Tracy had a 45-yard touchdown. Maybe they'll do that again. It's unfortunate. Tyrone Tracy is now in concussion protocol. He got knocked out of that game, so we'll see about him moving forward. And it just doesn't happen, where man, this is the week that they catch lightning, in a bottle a little bit on offense. And if Daniel Jones is quarterbacking a team, and there are reasons why, and he's part of the reason, not the only reason, but part of the reason why they're scoring, 14, 15 points a game, then maybe it's time to try somebody else and just see. They tried it with 11 and a half minutes to go last week against the Eagles. Maybe at some point it'll be, tried for a start in a longer sample size. I don't think anyone in the Giants building is expecting we're going to put Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito in there. We're going to really take off. That's why they're sticking with Daniel. They think he's their best option. But I would tell fans, watch for signs of this growing frustration, because this game was the loudest and clearest of all yet.
Well, you got the Commanders coming into town on Sunday, and we know all about their quarterback and what he's done for that franchise. So it's going to be a good one on Sunday, 1 p.m., Giants-Commanders. Let's put this one, we can officially close our laptops on this one, Paul. I'll see you on Thursday for the Blue Rush preview show. Thank you guys for watching.